Hi there, and welcome to Clarkenomics. In this video, we're going to continue our discussion of the basics of what a mixed economy is. So in another video, we talked about four different types of goods: private, common, club, and public. And what I did was I talked about how the government gets involved in a mixed economy to protect private goods, and how they make sure common goods don't get destroyed by people's self-interest. In this video, I'll be talking more about what the government does in terms of club goods and public goods. So here we go. Talking about club goods, which are non-rival, but they are excludable. The problem with club goods is that they have to be excludable to work because people will never pay for things that they can't get for free. Well, maybe I shouldn't say never, but by and large, people don't have an incentive to pay for something if they could just get it for free, out of besides maybe feeling good about themselves. So this is a problem that economists refer to as the free rider problem. Think about a road. If you're not going to tell me I have to pay to, travel on that road, I'm not going to pay. I'm just going to go drive on that road. I would be a free rider, literally. So with club goods, if people can free ride, they're not going to pay for that club good. And at that point, they wouldn't even be a club good because they would not be truly excludable. You have to have a way to force people to pay for the thing that they're consuming. Otherwise, there would be no incentive for the firm to even make it in the first place, or to innovate and create something new. A good example of this, and an important reason why the government steps in, would be with something like patents. So a patent is if you invent something, or you have a formula for something, or if you have a design for something, you can apply for a patent and the government will give you essentially a monopoly on that invention. In other words, the government will say, legally, you're the only person who can create this. You're the only company who can create this drug. You're the only company who can produce this technology. You have a patent on that invention. Now, they don't last forever. They do expire. But what the government is doing here is enforcing the excludability of that information. That's what's called intellectual property. Because think about it like this. Let's say a pharmaceutical company spent $10 million developing a new drug, but they didn't have a patent for it. Some other company could just figure out what they did without spending nearly as much money and sell that drug themselves. And they could probably do it at a lower cost because they didn't spend all that money to design the new drug. So the firm that invented the drug would definitely lose a bunch of business to this big copycat. So what the patent does is it lets the firm who invented the thing charge enough money without any competition so they can earn the money back that they spent researching that new product. So patents limit competition, but they make something excludable. They make that intellectual property, that design, that invention excludable. Nobody else can use it except for that one person who invented it. If you like to think about this as an artist, artists don't use patents, they use copyrights. So if you spend time and effort writing a book, painting a painting, writing a song, you don't want someone else to just be able to come along and rip off what you did. You're going to get a copyright for that work. You're going to have the government enforce the excludability of your artistic creation. That's still your intellectual property. And so we see this all the time with movies, right? Um, Movie studios, comic book, movies, they spend tons and tons of money paying for the rights to these characters. If some other company could just come and rip them off and have Spider Guy, well, yeah, not everybody would love that because it sounds kind of lame. But the point is, the company that put up all the money to produce these movies, and let's just say it's like Marvel or something, wouldn't be able to make their money back. So essentially, the government gives them a monopoly. It says, you're the only ones who can use this character in a movie. And so that is enforcing the excludability and making that intellectual property, such as like Spider-Man, a club good. And the reason why Spider-Man is a good example of that is if you have heard about all like the back and forth between Fox and Marvel over the rights to Spider-Man over the years, right? Both is trying to protect a club good that they have. They're trying to keep the government to enforce the excludability of that. And so that's why they have to negotiate and spend all this money for where and where Spider-Man can and cannot appear. So that's how club goods work. Governments are also involved in the creation of public goods. So a public good, here's the problem. It's a free rider problem again, right? You can't exclude somebody from using a public good because it's a public good. The definition of a public good is one that is non-excludable and non-rival. So a firm has literally no incentive to innovate or produce this thing. And the government can't enforce excludability because then it wouldn't be a public good, it would be a club good. So what would happen is the thing wouldn't exist, and we'd call this a market failure. So if you think about a highway, for example, you can't stop people from using highways. Let's not think about tolls here for a second. If it was up to companies to make these roads, but anybody could ride on them, the companies wouldn't earn any money, so they would have no incentive to even produce the road to begin with. They wouldn't make any money. And there would be no road. So that's where government steps in a mixed economy. They find something that a company would have no incentive to produce, and the government can do a couple of things. One, the government can step in, make people pay for it. They can impose taxes and then produce the public good themselves. So, if the government came to all of us and said, "Hey, would you like to donate money for a highway?" And we'd said, "Well, can we still ride on it if we don't pay taxes?" And the government was like, "Yeah." Then we'd be like, "No, thank you. I do not want to pay taxes." But because the government says, "Nope, you must pay taxes or you go to prison," then we say, "Okay, here's some tax money." Government says, "Thank you," uses that tax money. I don't think they say thank you, but the government uses that tax money to create the road. That road wouldn't exist if the government didn't force us to pay taxes and then use that money to build a road. The other thing the government does, if they don't think they can provide the good themselves in the best way possible, they'll still take our money with taxes, and then they'll provide subsidies. Subsidies are like the opposite of taxes. So they'll take our tax money and then they'll give money to somebody else to make something, like a producer. So let's say we're dealing with like cancer research here. The government will tax us. Yay! We pay taxes to the government. The government then gives money to cancer research organizations, right? Those organizations wouldn't necessarily have an incentive to produce the drugs they're trying to produce in the free market. But the government, since they have the ability, the power to take our money from us involuntarily, they can give that money to those cancer researchers so that they can produce the work that they do, which is hopefully finding a cure for cancer. So the government plays an important role in the realm of public goods because a lot of public goods wouldn't exist at all if the government didn't take action. And it's not just roads and cancer research, it's public schools, it's the military, it's all kinds of stuff that we can't exclude people from using it, but we need to make sure people still pay for it. And the way to do that is by taxing and either having the government create it itself or taxing and having the government give that money to people who can produce that good. So thank you for watching.